Welcome, everybody, to episode 2 of Disney Plus Reviews. I'm one of your co-hosts, Phil Souza, and I'm joined by my good friend, co-host, and an Ugnaught in disguise, Jack Altermat. How's it going, Jack?
I am here to host this episode with you. I have spoken. I am doing great. I am excited to be recording this episode. Excited to be in this studio again.
Yeah,
it has kind of been a while, like in, non like transitional thought processes. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah.
Like in studio. So this is exciting.
This
is very exciting.
We're back in the groove, getting it done.
Mm-hmm.
Disney Plus is launched. What did you hear about the launch as far as like bugs and issues that they had?
Well, let me tell you this. We had a snow day that day.
Yeah.
I'm a teacher. If you that are listening, you may not know that. You probably don't know that because, this may be the first time you've ever heard me talk. So I am an educator, and we had a snow day that day because we had a lot of ice where we live here. And
talking about good timing.
It was perfect timing. And so I got up my normal time because I just couldn't sleep because I'm used to getting up and ordered. Got it all ready to roll. It had launched like literal minutes before I ordered it. So like ordered, and so I was there the entire time, in real time, experiencing all the fun first steps, first little baby steps along with Disney Plus.
So we're in Central Time. What time of day was that for?
I think it was about 5, and I could be wrong. And some of you
5 a.m.
I feel like it was probably 5:20 a.m.
Okay, so you were anticipating going into work that day, and then
I woke up. I got the phone call that you're not going to work today. You've got a snow day. I was like, great, and so I'm like, I can't. Once I'm up, Phil, I'm up. I don't go back to sleep. So
okay.
Once I am up, that's why like if I have to get up in the middle of the night and go to the bathroom, it's a struggle to get back to sleep. Sometimes I can, but normally I'm up.
Okay.
So like this was one of those mornings. My alarm went off. Then. Subsequently, we got the call, and so I'm like, well, okay.
So you jumped on even earlier than I did. I tried to get on around 10 or 10:30. I was actually at work because I'm not as lucky as you to have snow days like you guys do. I was actually at work, and all I was trying to do was just create additional accounts because we wanted a children's account. They have I don't know if you've looked into that, but they have you can create an account just for kids, and it locks down all the PG-13 content. Yeah. None of that's there. She can't search or do anything. Yeah. It's very locked down.
Netflix did a similar thing with their kids' side. Too,
yeah. And so we wanted to do that for Jordan. She's 3 years old. And so it let me do that, I think, after a couple tries. I think the first attempt failed. Once I did get in, I could not change her profile picture for 4 hours. It finally started working in the afternoon. So their servers were getting hammered.
Here's what makes me laugh about, and anyone that's listening, if you don't know me, I find humor in people freaking out about things. It makes me laugh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It makes me laugh that you are freaking out over literal. Now think about this, folks.
Right.
This hub of all things Disney that has years and years of content. You can't watch through all of it. You can't.
No.
And yet, and it first launched. It's minutes into its launch, and an error code comes up, and in your mind, on the internet, you're the first thing out of your mouth and out of your fingers is absolute agony, and you are upset.
Yeah.
That how can this it's so buggy and horrible and blah, blah, blah. And then 2 hours later, it's seemingly completely smoothed out.
Oh, by the time
they figured it out.
By the time I got in on Tuesday night, it was perfect.
It blows my mind that's possible because my initial thought was, well, there's millions of people, multiple tens of millions, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah.
Logging on and getting things acquired. Yeah, this system is totally overloaded at some level. So they have no way to judge what it's going to be.
Right. So I work full-time as a server administrator.
Yeah, tell me about that. That's interesting to me. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I work in IT. So the fact that they had issues, I mean, I'm sure they did some beta tests with very small groups of people, but you can't plan. Yeah, once you multiply that to literally millions across the globe in all time zones, there's no way you can test all of that. So the fact that they had some issues at 5 a.m., 7 a.m., by the time I was on at 10:30 a.m., there were still some issues, and had them figured out less than 8 hours later. That's a miracle.
Well, and the best of the best. This isn't Crackle we're talking about. This is Disney Plus, which I say Crackle. That's a joke. It is owned by Sony, so Sony could probably figure it out too. What's a good example? I can't think of a good example. Tubi TV. You already know what that is, do you?
I don't think I've had a single issue with it since Tuesday.
There were times where that first 2 hours where I could not. The first thing I wanted to watch was Mandalorian right off the bat.
Yeah,
like I had to watch it right off the bat, and I clicked it. Error, and was an error for like a good 30 minutes. I went on and moved on and watched something else, and I can't remember. It was, you know what it was that I watched second was Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes.
Oh yeah,
because I love that. It's only 2 seasons of it, but it's like I love that as an animated show.
I've seen that
because it was well done. I mean, you and I used to talk about this when it first came out in like 2010 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, well, there's that. I'll watch that. And I was able to watch it.
Oh, you were able to watch that?
Yeah, I watched a couple of episodes.
Okay.
And then I went back to Mandalorian. It wouldn't play again. So that for me,
everyone was hammering Mandalorian.
Yes, yeah. And I get that. I understand that. You know, but it was so funny. Like, then you look online and like an hour into its launch, there's literally an article by someone talking. Okay, literally the headline is Disney Plus plagued with errors as opening. Like at opening,
don't you think that's
Disney Plus misses something? Like it's an hour old.
Yeah, that's got to be just clickbait articles, though.
Yes,
right?
It has to be. But anyone was able to create an article in that speed is hilarious to me.
I feel
like make a judgment.
I haven't seen any of these articles. I would hope that there's a couple articles that came out like Wednesday, Thursday. I'm putting a lot of faith in our media to say this, but like by Thursday to say like all bugs ironed out within 48 hours of launch.
They won't report on that. No.
That's not news.
The flashy things are what they report on. So
anyway. So I mean, if you couldn't tell already by now, we are not an official like Disney show.
Wait a minute. You've not got your check yet. From Disney?
What check?
I got a huge check this week from Disney because of this podcast.
Oh.
You didn't get your check.
They think we work for Disney?
No, I've already got a check from Disney this week.
Okay.
Walt Disney hand-delivered it, actually.
Wow, Walt.
Yeah, he's here with us. No, you're right. We're not officially Disney
so we're going to be honest about what we see, but honestly, by and large, and maybe we're going to sound like fanboys some like over the course of this podcast, but I mean, we're going to call it out when it's negative, and they did have kind of a rough lunch on that first day, but like I said, by and large, that when it comes to like first world, second world, third world, fourth world problems, that's not a big deal. Like, who cares?
And it's unbelievable that I can't believe they didn't have more.
Yeah.
Like my vantage point is more.
The fact that I was able to pull up the service and log in at 10 on Tuesday, it honestly was a miracle. Like I wasn't even sure I'd be able to do
How
that.
much? Okay, riddle me this one. These servers that they have for this thing.
Yeah.
Is it a whole building that's dedicated now to Disney Plus?
It has to be.
Like in real life? I mean,
yeah. Because all of that. So you're streaming that. So there has to be a box somewhere in somebody's server farm that is actually churning video, that is actually like taking that, the frames of that video and actually thinking about them, processing them, and then beaming them your way. Because your Roku or whatever that you're watching it on isn't actually processing the video. That's done off on the server side. So I don't know how many like tens of thousands of servers they have running. It has to be just tens of thousands because. I mean, one server might be able to handle 50 or 100 different sessions or whatever, unless they just have like beefy servers I've never heard of, which is very possible. But my guess is that maybe 100 or a couple hundred sessions at once. Mm-hmm. But then that server taps out. Then you have to buy a second server, a third server, 10,000 more servers. It's got to be just a massive warehouse of servers.
What's ironic is that you said it, and I guess you haven't heard of this new the newest Pixar movie they're coming out straight to Disney Plus is called Beefy Servers, and it's all about servers, and they have a secret life. The people leave the server farm, and then these servers go about their own lives. Anyway, so there you go.
Sounds riveting.
It's horrible. Very good. Well, what else? What else we want to talk about here? We've got obviously we're going to talk about Mandalorian.
That is the basis for the show.
What do we need to talk about first? What do we need to talk about first, Phil? You lead the way.
I'm just ready to jump into the Mandalorian.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the greatest thing you've ever heard of. It's called The Mandalorian, and it's phenomenal. Here's
what we're going to do as far as reviewing each episode of The Mandalorian. This is pretty much the only thing we're going to be talking about for the most part. 95% of our episodes are going to be about The Mandalorian going forward until it's over, until all 8 episodes have run end of December. So 10? Mm-hmm. Oh.
I think 10.
Okay.
Could be wrong. Go ahead. Continue.
As long as this show series runs, we're gonna cover all those episodes, and then we're gonna move on to something else. So pretty much the whole rest of this episode today is gonna be about the Mandalorian. Spoiler alert: we are going to spoil the crap out of this episode. Episode 1. It is 8 episodes.
Forget me.
So, yeah, we're already 2 episodes in, believe it or not. We're recording this after episode 1 and 2 have already aired. So, just to be honest with you there, we've seen both episodes. This episode that we're about to talk about today is only, the episode of the podcast is only about episode 1 of the series. We're not going to get into episode 2. So, if you only seen the first episode, we're not going to spoil anything that happens in episode 2. Right, Jack?
I will not.
Okay. I have your
I won't spoil it.
Okay.
I'm very tight-lipped about this.
Okay, we are not going to talk about anything that happens in episode 2.
I will not talk about how Anakin shows up and how, then, the whole, Obi-Wan's there. And wait, sorry.
Yeah, that hasn't happened. So
Darth Vader's Luke's father. You find this out on the
If you have not seen episode 1 and you don't mind being spoiled on it, go ahead and listen to this episode. Otherwise, you need to go and watch the episode first. You're probably going to be confused by half of the things we say anyways, but it's just a lot more fun, obviously, if you've actually seen the episode.
Absolutely.
So go back, watch episode 1 if you haven't already, if you're listening to this. Then come back and listen to this because we are about to spoil the entire episode, the beginning, the middle, the end, all of it. Okay. We'll talk about, I want to recap the episode and kind of talk about our favorite moments as we go kind of, scene by scene through the episode. At the end, we'll maybe highlight like our top 1, top 2 favorite moments from the episode, and then questions, thoughts, and predictions for future episodes kind of at the end. Okay. So that's what we're into. Let's talk a little bit about the setting for The Mandalorian. So it takes place 5 years, approximately 5 years after the events of Return of the Jedi. So about 25 years before the events of Rey in episode 7. Okay. So there is no Empire. The Empire has been completely dissolved by this point, and it's been 5 years since that. But the New Order and all that kind of stuff has not yet happened. We're kind of in
this weird, like, Wild West, which is perfect.
It is very Wild West, and that's
for the Mandalorian.
That's what I like about it.
Exactly. He is, for all intents and purposes, he's a bounty hunter, and he works for the Bounty Hunters Guild. Has a union card for the guild.
Has that been a thing in the movies? Like, Boba Fett wasn't a part of any guild, was he?
Boba Fett was part of a group of bounty hunters that were basically like, this is the canon stuff, not extended universe stuff, but like Boba Fett was part of an overarching idea that, there's a large amount of bounty hunters out there. And you go back to, was it Empire Strikes Back, where they're trying to seek out and find Han Solo and all of the rebels. And they enlist the bounty hunters to do that. And you think about on the Death Star, I think it's on Death Star, one of the Star Destroyers, they meet, and that's the first time you see Bosk and Dengar and like a lot of the other ones, along with Boba Fett. And so there is this overarching idea that, there's a large group of bounty hunters. Like, it's not just it's isolated one person, or they're all Mandalorian. There's not, like, Boba Fett at that point is the only Mandalorian you ever saw, and he technically by blood is not a Mandalorian, but...
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the Mandalorians. There's not a whole lot that we know about them canon-wise. I know there's a lot of books have been written about it, but as far as what's currently canon in Disney, Star Wars canon, is there's this... the name of the planet was called Mandalore.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the people that are from there are Mandalorians. They're a very aggressive, kind of warring tribe.
They're a warring tribe, and they and the Sith had a connection, and they fought the Jedi. And you think about it, this is why...
This is before the events
This is the this is Old Republic.
This
it goes way back.
Episode 1, even.
And the Mandalorians and the Sith worked together, so the Sith... they didn't work together with this person, but if I say Sith, you think Emperor, you think Darth Maul, you think Count Dooku, blah 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 blah. And they worked with them to try to get rid of the Jedi and fight the Jedi. Mandalorian armor, that's how powerful it is. That's how powerful their weapons are. Is that they can literally physically 1-on-1 fight
toe to toe with the
Jedi. Now they may not be able to beat them, but that Mandalorian armor that even the Mandalorian in this show wears is lightsaber proof.
Right.
Like the helmet.
That's the Beskar armor that they're talking about?
Yeah. That shoulder plate that he melts.
Yeah.
Can I go over that? Yeah.
That happens in the first episode.
Okay, good. See, I didn't spoil anything. Yeah, gosh.
No, they have this armor called Beskar, Beskar.
Yes. It's from a store.
Oh,
called Beskar Mart.
Beskar Mart. Okay, all right.
Joking. JK.
It's very expensive, very rare. There's not a lot that's out there. And a lot of that is because of what they call the Great Purge, as I understand it.
Yes.
Which is basically the wiping out of their race on Mandalore. Now, there's some Mandalorians that survived the Great Purge. Some of them were off-planet, perhaps, during that whole event. We actually get to see, in Episode 1, we get to see some flashbacks of the Mandalorian as a child. And presumably, we don't know for sure, but presumably his mom and dad were killed, murdered during the Great Purge.
This, however, that is basically from the timeline that be around the Clone Wars, is when that is happening.
Great Purge. Okay.
The Great Purge is around that time.
Okay.
And so
is that talked about in the Clone Wars TV series?
Ish.
Okay.
Ish.
Rewind.
It is talked about during that. I'm sorry. Yeah.
There's
that is talked about. Yeah.
Season 4 that I know covers a lot about the Mandalorians, which I've not watched.
Yeah.
Have you seen
I have seen it. I just have seen so much of that stuff that I'm just like I've seen it because they have the dark saber, which is basically as powerful as a lightsaber, only it's a dark matter crystal that's in it.
Okay.
And it can fight with a lightsaber without being force sensitive.
Okay. Cool.
And there's a Mandalorian in that, and I can't remember his name. He ends up trying to overthrow Sabine, who's one of the main Mandalorian characters that's in it. Sabine has a relationship, and this is all in the Clone Wars animated series, has a relationship with Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Oh,
is why it's kind of this big tie-in thing.
Okay.
And then, spoiler alert on that one, she ends up dying. The guy that worked for her ends up he kills her, and then they end up, Mandalorians end up getting purged after that, so...
I need to watch those episodes, but
just so much to watch.
Yeah, there is. The Clone Wars are actually on Disney Plus, but anyway, so that's kind of the background of this race, so the Mandalorian people, and he is Mandalorian. Jango Fett was a Mandalorian. If you've watched the prequel, the 4, 5, 6 movies. You can
1, 2, and 3.
No, yeah, I'm sorry, it is a prequel.
Yeah,
prequel movies. You see Jango Fett. You see kind of a young Boba Fett, who is a clone. I didn't even know that until lunch today. We were having lunch.
He is his kid, but he's basically a clone. He's a clone of Jango
he was
Fett.
His son, but okay,
that's why they look exactly alike.
Gotcha.
And technically speaking, whenever you never really see Boba Fett's face, but
yeah,
he should look just like Jango Fett.
So technically, all of the stormtroopers were also Mandalorians, but not really. They were just a clone of Jango. Is kind of what they were.
Which is weird.
Yeah,
and that was one thing that a lot of people were like, "Oh, why did you do that, George Lucas?" But so they had to come from somewhere,
right?
And that also makes the stormtroopers more. And that sounds bad, but they are clones. So it makes them more expendable, because they're just a repeat of the same person. I guess that's why. But that's why you have so many droids and that sort of thing in Star Wars.
Both sides were expendable, really.
They make them more expendable that way. So.
Yeah.
Anyway,
this is probably
not that a clone is expendable. Not that someone would be cloned. That would be a whole other topic.
Right.
You know, it'd be bad to. Even clones are people too. Sorry.
# clones are people too.
When they take over, I want to be on the good side.
Yeah, exactly. You want to be on the side that writes the history books, is what you're saying.
Yes.
So that's kind of most of what we know about Mandalorians. The setting for this show takes place, I'm thinking, Outer Rim. There's not a lot of people around. There's cantinas and desert land, basically. It's kind of mostly what we've seen.
At least the planets they've been on so far.
Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong. They've not named the planets yet. Like, they haven't said anything about where they're even supposed to be located. You have to assume Outer Rim, but they haven't.
Arvala 7 is the name of the planet they're on.
All right, cool.
That's the name that's the planet he travels to start out with.
As far as I can tell, these aren't planets that we've seen before. Like, this would be new settings as far as the
But they look
Star Wars.
so much like
it does.
Mos Eisley at times that you're like, okay, well or Tatooine. It looks like Tatooine.
Let's go ahead and get into the first episode plot. But the very first scene we see in the movie was in a cantina, which I absolutely loved. It reminded me a lot of the original Episode 4, New Hope, and going into that Tatooine cantina, and everyone's kind of minding their own business, and then a fight breaks out, and kind of that whole thing. I just really loved that scene. But he busts into this bar, this cantina, basically, and like I can't tell exactly what's going on. There's some bad guys that are kind of surrounding this guy in blue who is Mithril is his name.
And he is played by the Mithril guy is played by Horatio Sands.
Yeah, which
from Saturday Night Live.
I did not recognize him until I looked up the cast.
It's impossible to.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't look at.
He sounds like, when you think about it, it sounds like Horatio Sands.
And they're looking to actually, I think, eat him.
Are they really? Okay.
They're bad people, and they're basically. I think they're going to take his money. I think their whole goal is to steal his money because he has credits. He has money, and it's basically then. They're talking about how he's going to taste delicious because it's, there's no rules out here in the middle of this cantina.
Yeah, it's the Wild West. So the Mandalorian busts in. He says, "You spilled my drink," and he's really ticked off about that.
He busts in. The air hatch opens up so fast that this guy knocks his own drink over, and he blames the Mandalorian for spilling his drink. The bartender knows what's going to happen. The bartender is basically like, "Look." Here's a new drink.
The Mandalorian probably understands his language because he's speaking in like a Hadith or something like that. And so, I'm sure the Mandalorian knows what he said, but then, the bartender goes, "He said you spilled his drink."
Yes, he said you spilled his drink. So then he slides the new drink down to the Mandalorian. Actually, slides it down the bar.
Yeah.
The Mandalorian though cuts it off. It's an empty container. Did you know that?
Oh, I didn't see that.
So then the Mandalorian turns and hits the guy in the head with it. And then a melee proceeds. And by the end of it, one guy has been cut in half by the air.
Dude,
by the airlock.
So great. I loved that scene so much. They do a really good job of you feeling like the viciousness of that act. That literally that door just carved him in half.
And it's just a raw place.
But it's not super graphic. Like you don't see like blood squirting everywhere.
But you riddle me this one: how much blood do you actually see in Star Wars? Any Star Wars?
That's true. Yeah.
And
a lot of it's because the lightsaber kind of cauterizes
it.
Yeah, as
this
it goes,
just cuts him clean in half, I guess.
Dude, it's so great.
My question though is to the designers of these doors. Don't they have you think about it, you go to the grocery store and the door just opens up? Don't they have a safety on this thing? Did the bartender actually just hit the button, hey, chop in half?
Right.
Serrate?
he accidentally bumped it.
Chop.
The chop in half button.
Yes. Julian, this alien. So anyway, he ends up then saving the Mithril guy. However, the Mithril guy doesn't realize it's actually he's maybe in a worse situation than he was before.
Yeah, his initial reaction is like, "Oh, thank you so much." He's like, "I can pay you. Thank you for saving me. Like I've got credits, whatever." And
I just have this calamari, which by the way is the Admiral Akbar race. The calamari credits. I could pay you in that.
It's worth a few dollars, I'm sure.
Or was that Carl Weathers' character? That was Carl Weathers' character that said that later on. So anyway, no, the Mithril guy has money. He has all kinds of credits.
Yeah, and he has more. He's like, I can get you whatever you need.
He slides across this bounty Puck.
Yeah.
Sorry. Pogs? You want to play Pogs?
I used to play Pogs.
I've never played this. I had some Alf Pogs. He slides this Puck across, and this guy's hologram pops up, and he goes, "Is that supposed to be me?"
Is that me?
He's really funny.
He's one of the funniest characters they've had so far.
So good.
I kind of wanted to see more of him, but I kind of love that he was just a cameo, like in the series as a whole.
Yeah. Well, what else? What's next?
He delivers a great line at the end of that sequence. Where he goes, "I can bring you in warm," and then he puts his hand over his gun, "or I can bring you in cold." And so you kind of assume that he goes with the first option, and then they leave. So
this guy's a very intelligent person. He ends up getting on the Mandalorian ship. He talks about the ship, and they do a good job in this about having the other characters give some good background, like to flesh out the character. So the Mithril guy that played by Horatio Sands is talking about, this is a pre-Empire ship.
Oh yeah.
Oh, this is a nice ship. And he talks a bunch. So he gives that away, and then he eventually. And the other thing that this guy helps you figure out, you get to see the very first bathroom in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
Like I've seen just about everything in Star Wars.
I've never seen a toilet.
I've never seen a toilet, and here it is. And it really kind of looks like a toilet, but it doesn't look like a regular toilet. Like, so there's they have a technology apparently for bathrooms apparently in the Star Wars universe.
He really has to go, or at least he wants the Mandalorian to think that.
Yeah.
And he says, I haven't evacuated since the solstice.
And I'm molting. Oh, it's so rough.
If you've never seen my race evacuate before, you don't know.
You don't know.
You don't want to miss it, or you want to miss it. But yeah, he actually says, I was hoping to be ready by Life Day. And who's the first person I thought of when he said that?
I don't know, me.
Jack Alterman.
Yeah, well, here's the thing about Life Day is that in saying this about Life Day, he actually makes...
It canonizes
parts of the holiday special.
Yeah.
The other thing that canonized the holiday special is the first time we ever met Boba Fett was on the holiday special, the Star Wars holiday special from 80 we said, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And there's an animated short on there.
By the way, pause for a second. If you've not watched the Star Wars holiday special, you can watch the entire thing for free on YouTube. Watch it, go back and find the Horrible Movie Podcast episode where we talk about.
And it's great. It's a great episode.
Special. Oh, it's so funny. Anyway,
Dave Clemens, I think, is on that one. Anyway, so check that out. But Boba Fett has a gun on there, and it's got these two tines on it.
Yeah,
and it's basically, well, it's
the same weapon.
It's the same weapon, and it's actually how it gets off ship. We skipped past it. We went straight on the ship. We skipped past the taxi.
Yeah.
Which the taxi gets him out there. We also find out that the Mandalorian does not trust droids.
Yeah, the first taxi that comes up is just driven by a
nice,
droid.
shiny taxi thing.
He's like, this is the best one I've got.
It's an R2 unit.
He's like, no, I don't trust droids.
No droids. And the Mandalorian's cool because he literally talks like this.
No droids. No droids.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's very succinct. It's perfect. It's perfect.
There's a
it's a lot like Boba Fett. I mean,
yeah. Well, and he's very.
And maybe is he Boba Fett?
No,
probably not.
No, I don't think so. He's a man of very few words. He doesn't really talk a whole lot.
Yeah.
Which
he lives a lonely life.
Well, and I like the mystery of it. Like, you know, he's not gonna talk in paragraphs. He's gonna talk in single sentences.
The other homage to the holiday special is that there's a sea or a creature from under the ice that they're trying to avoid. That's why you have to take a taxi. You can't walk out on the ice.
Yeah.
Because this creature will just jump through the ice and bite you in half.
Yeah.
Well, they taxi. He finally gets this one guy who's played by. I gotta find that cast name because he's a celebrity.
Yeah, he's
Brian.
He's in The Big Bang Theory.
Brian something. Anyway,
I've seen him in The Big Bang Theory several times.
And so he taxis him out there. He goes, "Hey man, make sure you stay off the ice." And then he makes a roundabout, and then in the distance,
well, he wants to get out of there fast.
He knows.
He's like, "I gotta go.
I gotta go. Pay me and get out. I'm gonna get here." So then he drives back around. And about that time, the creature comes up and eats him, and then it comes across the ice and tries to get.
That's really the big, kind of first big creature we see in the series,
and it looks like something from Jaws. I mean, it's like Jaws.
It took my breath away for a second. Ice, It was really cool to watch. It kind of like these big, like almost walrus kind of tusks coming out of its mouth. I thought it was really cool.
It tries to attach and grab on, and it actually does at times grab onto the Mandalorian ship as he's flying out. And again, this is another homage to the holiday special because the first time you see Boba Fett, he has his gun out and he's riding this dinosaur-looking thing.
Call him Mythosaur.
But he is, which that's the Mandalorians can ride. By the way, they're able to ride.
He actually mentions the word Mythosaur later.
Someone else does too.
The other character does.
So he gets his gun out and shoots this thing and shocks it just like Boba Fett does.
Yeah.
On that holiday special. So weird.
I kind of love that they're doubling down on holiday special during the series.
It's awesome.
Literally, no one has ever mentioned it, and including Lucas. Like George Lucas,
he hated it,
disavowed the entire thing.
Well, he did it, I'm sure, just for publicity. I mean, he was probably okayed it for publicity's sake. And things were different back then. Like tie-ins and things were out of your control sometimes. Anyway,
that show as a whole is abysmal, but there's pieces of it that are actually kind of cool. And I think they're just trying to tie in with just those things. So yeah, we know that Life Day is a real thing now. That it's literally only been mentioned in the holiday special, but now it's real. The Mythosaur thing is, I believe, only been mentioned in the holiday special. Mm-hmm. Now it's canon. So yeah, I keep it coming, man.
Well, they get on the ship. The Mithril character decides, I've got to evacuate my innards here. So he goes downstairs of the ship, and he's doing it basically just to get away. He opens up what's the armory thing on the ship.
Oh, yeah.
Finds that this is where all the guns are at, right? So and then he realizes that he closes the door. He talks back up. Oh, hey, I'll be right up. Blah, blah, blah.
I feel much better already.
He keeps walking, and he comes across 3 people encased in carbonite.
Yeah, I lost it, dude. I was just like, yes.
And there was a Greedo-looking character in one of them, and there's a couple others that are... Anyway, and then he gets to the edge, and he's just like, oh, no. And he looks around the edge, and standing there is the Mandalorian. And he basically was like... And he says, I'm not going to make it home for Life Day, am I?
Nope.
And so then he shocks him and throws him in the carbonite generator thing. And then
it looks just like Han Solo going into carbonite. It was weird. It was awesome.
It's a travel version of it, though.
Yeah.
Like, you remember how, like, in Empire Strikes Back, how that was such a big ordeal? Like, they're underneath the thing. This is the travel version of it.
Right.
They've upgraded the technology.
Well, it's been years.
But on that, they didn't normally encase people in it. It was for other goods to store.
That's right.
And he's like, I've never seen this used for this. I hope he survives the thing.
That's right.
You'll be rewarded handsomely for this. He better not be harmed. Boba Fett tells to Darth Vader, which says a freaking lot about Boba Fett.
That he can say he's willing to try it
and point in Darth Vader's face and be like, he better not be harmed. Darth Vader could choke you out at any moment. Like, isn't that weird? Like, think about that.
Yeah.
But at this point now you've seen it in Empire, and now they've made a travel-size version of it for your ships.
Yeah. So it's not only common knowledge that people that human like biological beings can survive carbonite, but it's now like just commonplace. Like everyone has one.
And
on the ship.
We've now seen that they use it on the ship.
Yeah,
it's cool.
It's really cool
because they had a whole carbonite chamber thing they had to use on the old Death Star, or wherever it was they did that. Remember, it was in Cloud City. I think I remember Cloud City.
Okay.
Anyway.
Yeah,
I digress.
That's awesome.
You know who worked in the carbonite chamber to freeze Han Solo in carbonite? 2 Ugnaughts.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No spoiler yet, though. All right.
We haven't got to the Ugnaughts yet.
Just telling you. Brah.
So the next thing we see is he arrives at this planet, probably maybe a guild type base, and goes in there. He's talking to Carl Weathers for a little bit.
Chubbs. He's Chubbs from Happy Gilmore. He's Apollo Creed.
Yes. They have, you already kind of covered this, but they have like kind of a cute little exchange about Imperial credits. And he's like, hey, Imperial credits aren't worth anything anymore.
Yeah.
Like,
hey, this is Imperial credits.
Yeah. He's just like,
because he brings in his bounty and they have these bounty trackers and he brings them in and he goes, hey, those are Imperial credits.
Yeah.
It's like, that's all I've got to pay for you.
Yeah.
Pay you with.
Yeah.
Because the guild is not actually very old because it didn't exist before the thing. I remember them kind of leaning on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
He mentions he could pay you in calamari. I got calamari. I'll take them.
One of the things that we do know about the guild is that they are maybe not doing very well. Like they're very expensive, and so a lot of people aren't using their services, and they're going with cheaper bounty hunters, the ones that maybe don't do as good of a job. It's kind of more of a messier job, but who cares? They're cheaper, and you get what you pay for. Well, the bounty. Like the guild is kind of suffering because of that, and he's suffering. The Mandalorian specifically says, like, I need more work, man. Like that, the amount that I'm getting paid barely pays for gas. Like I need to get a substantial gig, and then that's when he basically drops this big bomb of like, okay, I've got one, but it's super off the.
Yeah, to the point where
the grid.
He's like, "Well, give me the puck." He's like, "There's no puck." He basically says, "I'll give you the tracking chip or the tracking."
Well, he goes, okay, so yeah, see, he leaves him, and then
page or whatever.
He actually meets with
tracker,
the person that is only referred to as the client. Like we don't even know his name. So he meets with this guy called the client, and dude, this actor. Like I immediately fell in love. Have you seen him?
Yeah, I've seen him in other stuff. I gotta find out what his name is.
He's been around
a long time. It's Max. What's his name?
His client, his accent. He's got kind of almost like a Germanish kind of accent.
Yeah, that's why. But I can't think.
It's definitely Eastern European.
I gotta find him.
He's got this really awesome accent, and he's very mysterious. He kind of talks almost in half code half the time, and you don't really know what his motivation is. I'm really loving the client. Like the client is one of my favorite characters so far.
He'll be around more too.
Well, I mean, no spoilers for like future episodes. You know, we've already seen episode 2, but like, we'll see him again several times. I think so. Anyway, so obviously the Mandalorian is super desperate at this point, needs to find a big job. He goes and meets with the client. There's only 2 people. I mean, he's got some guards and stuff that, do kind of this Mexican standoff with him at first. And he's like, hey, we got you outnumbered 4-1. And Mandalorian's super cool. And he says, I like those odds.
Werner Herzog.
Yeah, so good.
Yeah,
man.
and he's been around a long time. He's been in a billion things. So Werner Herzog, I knew I couldn't think of it.
The only guy that's named in that room is Dr. Pershing, which is what the client calls him. Immediately there's an exchange between Dr. Pershing and the client, which I think is really fascinating. Dr. Pershing clearly wants, they say, okay, we've got this bounty. We want you to come get this guy and bring him back to us. And Dr. Pershing specifically tells him, I want him alive. And then the client says, or dead, just, either way. And then Dr. Pershing says, no, that's not what we discussed. I want him alive.
Yeah.
So Dr. Pershing definitely wants him breathing still for whatever reason. He doesn't specify why.
And the client obviously worked for the Empire, was a person in the Empire.
Yeah.
He's got stormtroopers that are his minions, basically.
Bodyguards, yeah.
And he's got this doctor who looks like he's dressed in Empire, like, gear of some kind.
I read somewhere online that he might actually be wearing, like, an insignia of, like, the cloning facility from episode 2, which would be kind of crazy.
It would be awesome, though. I'll take it.
I mean, I don't know if there still are cloning facilities. Maybe he just previously worked for one and still has that lab coat. but or they're currently doing cloning, which, we'll get to the ending here in a little bit, but like that really has a lot of theories buzzing about like who this bounty could actually be.
And the tie-in with anything Boba Fett tie-in, like I said, the Jango Fett Boba Fett cloning connection, and then maybe a reach. I mean, give us a few episodes, and that may sound stupid when I say that. But.
Yeah. He offers to pay him in Beskar, basically Beskar steel,
which is very valuable.
Yeah, it's
to the Mandalorians, especially because that's what they lost in the Purge.
This is possibly more money he's ever seen.
Yeah.
For any kind of a job.
Yeah, their civilization was basically wrecked after that Purge, so it's like they've spent their whole like existence trying to get back to some semblance of a civilization.
Right. He gives him a down payment. I thought I made a joke as I was watching it with some friends at work. We watched this on our lunch break, and I was like, "Oh, it's the new iPhone 11." It's like a perfect like iPhone size of a brick of Beskar steel. But he gives it to him. He's like, "This is just a down payment." He says, "I have a something, some word that I think they made up, full of Beskar." And it basically, I looked it up. It's basically like a safe. Like it would be like maybe 50 more bricks or more, like 50 to 100 more bricks of Beskar. It could be even bigger than that.
Yeah.
So it's like an unbelievable amount of riches, right? And so obviously you can't say no to this job, but almost nothing, no information is given to him. So forget the Puck thing. He's not even given this person's name. All he's told is that this person is 50 years old and we can give you a tracking fob, and that's about it.
And his last known location.
Right. And that's it. That's all the information he's given. So he has to definitely do more like detective, investigative type work, like get to the planet, kind of ask around and that kind of thing. So the next thing we have, I got to mention this real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
He's on his way back to the ship to go ahead and take care of this bounty. We see for a brief moment the monkey lizard.
Something Crumb. What's his name? Salacious Crumb.
Salacious Crumb.
And we are left to assume, if nothing else, it's the race that is Salacious Crumb.
Right, not Salacious.
But
dude,
screaming in there.
That's so great.
You that talked about this week about what would it be like? These are people that are eating him as food because one of them's on a spit.
Yeah,
he's
being
cooked.
roasted. Yeah,
it's a creature that can talk a little bit.
Yeah, it was me that was talking to you about that. Like it's one thing to eat like chicken. Because chicken doesn't speak English, but like Salacious Crumb speaks languages.
How about this? Would you eat a parrot?
Oh, that's a good point.
Parrots can talk. They can mimic nothing else.
They can mimic, yeah.
And maybe this thing's just mimicking.
Yeah.
Anyway, those things are ridiculous, though. In Jabba's palace,
I do think it's
like the worst of Jim Henson's creations. Yikes! Yeah, a horrible Muppet.
So great. I just love that they had him. They had one of those in the scene at all, and let alone roasting it a lot, or roasting it now dead, I guess.
Yes,
so good. But
that's what they said. They said it was so good, delicious.
So before they go to this, before he goes to this planet, gets in his ship and goes away, he goes to this like guild. There's a metalworking,
an armorer, basically is what they're called, and it's a lady, and she's dressed as a Mandalorian as well, and there are several Mandalorians in there, so it's like...
Dude, her helmet was awesome.
It's like the Mandalorian like little group. Now, there is a Mandalorian that walks past him a little bit deeper in the room that looks an awful lot like Boba Fett's armor.
Oh, yeah, in the hallway.
Which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
That means probably nothing. Because technically speaking, the last thing we knew, official canon-wise, is he, was eaten by the Sarlacc.
And he's being
in Return of the Jedi.
And someone had to remind me of this at work this week. But when a Sarlacc swallows you, you don't
hundreds
die.
Of years.
It takes you 1,000 years to be digested.
Now, remember now, Boba Fett's in really tough armor.
That's true. He could get free.
Yeah, but again,
I don't think it's Boba Fett. I think it's maybe an Easter egg at best.
Probably at best.
But anyway, this is where we get the flashback scene because she's talking about the Great Purge and foundlings, which are I'm assuming orphaned children.
Yes, Mandalorian
from the Great Purge, because I think only the men and women are killed or taken away, but the kids are kind of left behind. So that he admits that he was a foundling, and they have this really kind of sweet exchange. We don't know anything about her either; she's just kind of a nameless person. But she's talking about I'll take what you don't use from this brick. She basically forges it into like an armor plate for him
for his shoulder.
And she said there's some left over, and I'm going to donate that for the foundlings. And he's talking about how like absolutely I was a foundling once, like definitely do that. Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. I'd like to know more about that.
Yeah, he's a bounty hunter, but he's has some chivalry to him, and that makes him a little more human. And it's hard to be human when you can't see someone's face. By the way,
yeah.
So it's like one of those where he's kind of emotionless.
Yeah.
But like that makes him seem more human.
I have a question about that when we get to the end of the episode.
Sounds great.
So now we finally get to see the Ugnaught, who
he lands on this Arvala 7, as there is this other desert planet he goes to, that is where the tracking the tracker leads him to. He lands and then is immediately attacked by 2 blurrg.
Dude, so great.
And they are blurrg, and they look like something from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Like some sort of creature from that.
Yeah.
Or Doctor Who or something. And they're these big, like, rotund, like, I don't know, land whale looking things, but like they're not as big. They're like bigger than a cow size. And they attack him, and he's having a hard time with it.
They're pretty vicious.
Yeah, and they're trying to kill him. And then, like you said, go ahead with your who saves him.
Yeah, so I had to look up his name because I don't think they ever say it in the episode. In either of the episodes that we've seen so far.
No,
Kuiil?
Kuiil.
Kuiil?
Kuiil.
Okay. So Kuiil is this Ugnaught, which I don't know that we've had like a main character Ugnaught.
No, the only Ugnaughts I've ever seen are the ones that are encasing Han Solo and Carbonite.
Oh, right. So
there are maybe somewhere in the Empire, but there are
workers. Ugnaughts in like some of the games, like the video games. But as far as like actual cinema, I think this is the first one. But anyway, he knows what's going on. He knows exactly where to send him. He's like, yeah, I know where your bounty is. Many have come and gone and died in the process. He said, I've helped all of them, but they've all died. And
why do you want to help me?
And then the Mandalorian says, then I don't know if I want your help.
But he asks him, why would you want to help me? He's like, because these people have brought a lot of suffering to this valley.
Yeah.
And I want this valley to be peaceful again. I came here. I want it to be peaceful. I don't want it to be horrible. And if you can stop that, then I'll be in your gratitude.
I love his character for that. Like he doesn't demand anything. He's just like basically, hey, if I can help you in any way, and then this brings peace to my valley, I'm good with that.
Very old. This is very Western, by the way.
And this is where even the music kicks up. Like the soundtrack and stuff like that gets very Western at this point.
Yes.
Pretty much almost everything from this point on that planet feels very Western. And I think Jon Favreau even talked about that. Like he said he admitted that he was heavily influenced by like old spaghetti movies and stuff like that. But anyway, eventually he has to learn how to ride a blurrg, which that was kind of a very funny exchange.
There was a moment where I thought, if this goes on too long, this is actually the only moment in the entire show so far,
right,
where I said, if this part goes on too long, I will be really annoyed by this. It's okay. Okay, ha ha ha, it's fun.
Yeah.
Let's don't get too far out of this guy's character of him learning to ride this blurrg.
Right. Was it just the right length for you, or
it ended up being fine? And the tie-in that they used, which was perfect. How can you not? The Ugnaught tells him. Kuiil says, "How can you not ride?" I mean, it sounds like Yoda. How can you not ride a blurrg when your ancestors rode the, what is it called? The mythosaur.
Another holiday
basically
special.
You can't ride this thing, but yet your ancestors rode a dragon, basically.
Ride a
dinosaur. So he's like, okay, yeah, whatever. And so he ends up being able to figuring out how to ride it. It basically, he's nicer to it. He's been mean to it, trying to get it to break him breaking it, and then he shows it some compassion. It accepts him for who he is. And then he lets him ride it.
I think some of my favorite moments in either of the episodes have been anytime that the Mandalorian is seen to be kind of, you can laugh at him for a second, because for the most part he's very serious, and don't mess with this guy, and he's gonna mess you up if you look at him sideways.
Yes.
But there are little moments like this where he's like falling off of a blurrg, and you just can't help but chuckle a little bit.
Absolutely. And that's definitely the case where he gets it. So they ride the blurrg. They need the blurrg because apparently it's a long ride, and they show the terrain they're going to cross. It's this desert kind of cracked, like land. The land is all cracked up. They have to jump over things on these blurrgs.
Mm-hmm.
And
Kuiil basically says, you're not going to make it unless you ride one of these.
And he basically said, what do I have to do to give you in return? He's like, you give me your half of the blurrg you're riding. He's like, you can have it.
That's all he
You can have the whole
wants.
thing. I don't care. Which is really funny.
Yeah.
So then he basically is like, okay, so here we go. This is where you're at. And it's this compound. And it's that you don't really even get to see I'm trying to think of what race they are, because I've seen this race before. There's a worker on Jabba the Hutt's skiff. And actually, he's a worker that works in Jabba's palace that is the same race as these people.
Is it Transocean?
Maybe.
I know. Yeah, I think it might be.
I'd have to really look through. Anyway, they're like a dark, like a leathery skin looking kind of creature, and they
almost reptilian kind of
fights. One of them dies. A rancor. The rancor eats one of them.
Okay, gotcha.
Anyway, long story short, though, there's another one that dies works on Baba's skiff, Jabba the Hutt's skiff, when they go out into the desert.
This is where it gets very spaghetti western. Like it's almost OK Corral, kind of like High Noon.
He looks down into this complex, and there's a bunch of them. And then he looks down, and he's looking down there, and he realizes there's a bounty hunter droid.
Yeah.
Who is what IG-11?
Yeah, same as IG-88 if you're familiar with that. But
IG-11 walks down in there, and is basically like, I am bounty hunter droid IG-11. You have a bounty that I am here to collect. Please give up your bounty. And they're like, no, beep, 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 and they start shooting it. But it is unbelievable. I mean,
dude, this shootout is one of the best things I've seen.
It can just take anything.
Yeah,
like it's not hurt by the blasters that they're shooting at it.
Yeah.
The droid, and the cool thing about it,
he's doing a lot of no look,
because he can go 360 spin,
right?
Because all of his directions are all those directions. There's no front or back to him, so he's just like beep, 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 beep.
Yeah,
and which is really cool. But then basically, the Mandalorian's mad about that because like the art of surprise is gone because this thing just walked in there.
You can tell he was going to tackle this situation much different than IG-11.
I think he's afraid that the IG-11 thing will just screw this all up for him. So then he ends up going down there.
Yeah, I mean, he basically joins them at that point because there's a pause moment where there's no more firefight.
Yeah.
And so they have this like quick little exchange, and then I think the reinforcements have arrived at that point, and then they have to shoot out together.
A lot more than you initially thought. Like there's a crap ton of them.
Well, I mean, IG-11 took out like maybe 10 or 15 of them, and then there's another 10 or 15 that come right after that. So
the Mandalorian goes, let's get out of here now. We've got a clear way out of here. Let's go. He's like, no, I'm here to get this bounty. And then you think he's got IG-11 talked into retreating because IG-11's like, that computes, that makes sense.
Let's regroup, yeah.
Let's regroup. Well, then they've backed themselves into a corner, basically, and now there's more people, and they have this huge blaster gun, which is basically an homage to Westerns of a Gatling gun.
Yeah.
You know, like this full-on...
Yeah.
And they just are... Now they're really pinned down under fire. And IG-11 does one of the funniest things...
Oh, yeah, I was laughing so hard.
Of all time, when he goes, odds are completely against us based on manufacturer's request. I must self-destruct. And so then he has a thermal detonator basically built into his core. It opens up, and there it is sitting there, and it turns red. And he's like, "Don't self-destruct! What are you doing?" And so he's like, powering down. So he powers it down. And he's like, "No, don't self-destruct. We need to work our way to blah blah blah." So anyway, they end up actually battling their way through all of it.
Yeah. Well, and then, he says that one time, and then the Gatling gun comes out, and he goes, initiating self-destruct. No, do not self-destruct. He has to tell him multiple times, don't blow yourself up.
It's very Han Solo situation. And so, which I think is hilarious that his initial thing is to self-destruct.
Yeah, he really wants to self-destruct. At one point he says, beginning self-destruct countdown, and then the Mandalorian just goes, no! And again, that's another scene where you get to see the Mandalorian just not fully composed. Like, I mean, and that's I want more of that. Like,
yes.
I would see more of just silly Mandalorian comments.
So then they end up fighting off all of them. He commandeers the Mandalorian, ends up getting in an angle where he can get behind the guy on the turret, or on the turret basically, and take it over.
Yeah,
and he ends up killing everybody off.
Spins around on that Gatling gun and just takes everybody out. It was so cool.
Yeah, and he now they purge, they go into the facility.
There's one more guy left. He shoots him. He goes, anybody else?
They get back to where they know apparently, but we're led to know that this is it, and it's this little pod.
Well, and there's nobody there. Like at first, I was like, okay, there's gonna be someone cowering in the corner or something like that. I was like, where's the mark? Like, where's the bounty that they're trying to get back?
Yeah,
and like you said, there's this small little pod.
Yeah, and so it's there, and they look over into it, and there it is, a Yalak, the Yoda race.
Yeah, which the more I texted you that, the more
Lanik?
I don't remember.
I feel like Yalak was the right one, but I may have said it wrong.
I texted you the word, but I don't think that's canon. I think what's actually canon from Disney right now is that we don't know the
actual race.
Yeah, and so like from what I've been reading online and stuff like that, people are just calling it the child, or I think. More colloquially, it's called like Yoda Baby or something like that.
Baby Yoda. I've been calling it Baby Yoda a lot.
Yeah. I think the child is technically like...
Yaddle was the other one that we met in episode 1.
The female. We've only seen 2 Yodas, basically.
We see
Yoda
this.
and then Yaddle.
And so then you're like, one is this... Well, my wife was watching it, and I'm going to tell this. She goes... And it's obviously a baby, by the way. And she goes...
It's 50 years old.
She goes... Is that Yoda? So I found that really funny.
So the theories obviously have gone rampant. As soon as I saw, as soon as the pod opens and I saw the ears come out and you saw his face, I vocally erupted. As I was watching it with my friends, I was just like, no way. That is a huge drop. Here's what I thought we were getting with the Mandalorian TV show. I thought we were getting this spaghetti western, old west kind of guy that just kicks butt and takes names. And
Monster of the week. Every week he travels to a new planet.
He's constantly just getting bounties and stuff like that.
Which is basically, hold on, stop. Basically, you just described Firefly.
Yes.
Okay.
The Firefly in a Star Wars, I would have taken that.
Which I would have taken that too.
Yeah. I mean, I totally would have been okay with that. But this moment, the moment where the pod opens and you see that there's a Baby Yoda, species in there, I was like, that changes the entire series from this point forward. Regardless if this thing has force powers or doesn't have force powers, I'm just like, we have seen something that we haven't seen in forever. And these things are rare. Everyone knows Yoda species just doesn't exist on hardly any planets out there. And so, now all the guesses and theories are running rampant. So some people think, is it Yoda's clone? Maybe he got clones, maybe by Dr. Pershing, clones Yoda. But the timing of that doesn't seem right. If he's really 50 years old, that would have had to have happened 50 years ago, which I don't know if I buy that. Some people have said, is it Yoda and Yaddle's child? Like that they hooked up and then had this baby.
No.
Some people just say it's just the first one that anyone's seen in a long time. And that's why this thing is incredibly, here's what we know is that everybody wants this child.
Man,
everyone
it's the
does.
number one gift for Life Day.
it's the Christmas gift that everyone wants for Christmas.
Just saying. But then you left off this part.
It's jingle all the way.
No, where's my trouble, Mandal? Where's my baby Yoda? So they're standing there, and IG-11 raises its blaster and says, "I was ordered to kill this. Let's terminate or whatever it says."
Yeah,
must terminate. Sorry, this is not that. Anyway, he does that, and he basically is like, "You're right. We must terminate, or we must." And the Mandalorian shoots IG-11 in the head.
Yeah, point blank,
which I found interesting that his blaster at point blank range could actually blow a hole in the side of IG-11's head.
Yeah, that's cool.
Anyway, so then basically, cool.
So he's a separate. He has a bounty. He's a bounty hunter with a separate commission. That's what I understood by that. Is that like the client. The German sounding guy didn't hire both of them. That like maybe another.
I think they're all after this haul. This is a big deal,
right? But from like 70 different clients.
I think it's the biggest haul there is. This is the golden goose.
Yeah.
And the cool thing at the end is the Mandalorian puts his hand out, and Baby Yoda puts his little finger up in the air, and that's the end of the episode.
E.T. phone home.
Pretty cool. Didn't see that coming. What a cute, so cute, by the way. So cute.
I would seriously want to take that home and just have it be my second baby.
We all want, okay.
In our house.
There you go. That's it.
Dude, one of the biggest, for lack of a better term, WTF moments, like endings of a show that I've ever seen.
Yes.
Like they rolled credits right after that. I was just like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe what just happened. So yeah, it was a huge ending. It was bigger than any ending I could have ever written for that show.
And the cool thing about it was just that you didn't see that coming, and that was neat. And it was so fresh because we literally
it hadn't been leaked or anything.
No, we all just kind of watched. Disney Plus that morning.
Yeah.
Just to watch this, basically.
Yeah.
Worth it.
It was awesome.
Worth how much did it cost? $6.99?
$6.99.
Worth $6.99 by far. Just that episode. You got your money's worth this month. Absolutely.
Okay, so that went a little longer than I thought, but there was a lot to talk about.
Well, we had a lot to unwrap because it's the first episode of us actually knowing what Disney Plus even looks like.
Yeah.
Because in our 0 episode, basically.
My guess is that this is probably the longest episode that we do for The Mandalorian, except for maybe the final episode.
One last thing before we go. One thing you watched on Disney Plus this week that you were like, that's cool, or something.
Well, I want to do favorite moments real quick.
Tell me. Yeah, get it.
So, I mean, obviously the firefight scene.
Yeah.
The firefight scene is maybe the best scene in the first episode.
Yeah, other than the ending where you're just like, holy crap.
Yeah,
what am I looking at here? I really liked IG-11. I really hoped.
Yeah.
I really hoped. And maybe there is a chance he comes back.
I'd like to see him again, man.
But I bet he's a villain.
He's voiced by Taika Waititi, who's done a lot of Avengers.
Taika Waititi is directing the last, episode 8.
I would love to see him come back. I mean, like people say, like, could IG-11 survive? I'm like, yes, he's a droid. The droids can survive anything.
Well, there'll be another one.
Yeah, that's true. Just another IG-12 or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to see an IG robot come back, droid come back. I think a runner-up for me as far as favorite moment is just the awesome meeting with the client. Like I went back and watched that scene over and over again.
Yeah,
there's so much in that scene. You can just take almost every phrase apart.
And the big thing I'm telling you, now I'm going to tell you a little foreshadowing here. We've seen the stormtroopers when they walked through the streets. You didn't see the stormtroopers' heads on pikes, but in all the promos, we've seen stormtroopers' heads on pikes.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And they have that same reddish kind of worn out kind of look that these stormtroopers have. So is that some foreshadowing for what happens to these future episode? Sad stormtroopers that work for Werner Herzog.
I tell you what, so we want to end every episode with what else are you watching on Disney Plus? Mm-hmm. Let's save that for the next episode, for episode 3 of our show. Mainly because I've only been watching one other thing, but also because it's still pretty early.
Yeah.
I don't know that we have a lot to say, in just such a short period of time. Mm-hmm. By the way, how great was it to get 2 episodes within 3 days of each other.
It was awesome. It was a rare treat.
The episode 1, the bomb drop at the end of the episode was so heavy that I needed something pretty quickly after that, and so it was great to just get it 3 days later.
Right on, man.
Okay, well, I think that's going to wrap it up for this episode. This is a long episode. Most of our episodes will probably be a little bit shorter than this, but you got about an hour or so for this one. Next up in your feed, we're going to actually record it just right after that. Kind of look behind the curtain. We're just going to do 2 episodes right back to back.
Yeah, just because the timing of when we can record, and also just the fact that it dropped 2 episodes in 1 week.
Yeah, we have to address both episodes today.
But most of the time it will work out really well when we record this. It won't. That episode will still be pretty fresh.
Yeah,
that second episode.
So we actually probably as you're listening to this, you already have the next episode already in your feed. We're probably going to drop them on the same day.
Might as well.
Here probably Monday as you're listening to this. And then our goal is to drop a new episode every Monday. So look for us, subscribe, hit the subscribe button on whatever you're using. Next Monday we'll be reviewing episode 3 of the Mandalorian, and then the episode 2 is just going to be right next in your feed. You already have that one. So and then we'll see you on Mondays after that. So bye for now. If you're you've already seen both episodes, just listen right on to the next episode, and we'll continue talking to you.
Thanks, guys. Just remember, we have spoken.